This airline shares the same DNA with one of the world's most successful airlines. But instead of following the path towards triumph and victory, it has stumbled from one decade into another, struggling to remain relevant. This push for purpose continued because the inconsistent and somewhat confusing branding of Malaysia Airlines continue to flounder as we speak. In this episode, we join them on board, flying some of the world's busiest air routes between two destinations that used to belong to the same country.
Step 1, wake up early, gonna rise with the sun. Step 2, get some good, some food in you. Step 3, think real hard about what you wanna be. Step 4, everybody just do your thing.
Wake up, today's gonna be a good day. 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 Wake up, today's gonna be a good day.
G'day everyone and welcome back to my video. Today we are flying to Malaysia. So let's get into the spirit by saying, apa khabar penonton yang terhormat, tuan-tuan, puan-puan dan semua kawan-kawan. Selamat datang ke lampangan terbang Changi di Singapura. Hari ini saya akan terbang dengan penerbangan Malaysia dari Singapura ke Kuala Lumpur, habis lepas tu ke Hong Kong. Saya akan naik tempat duduk di kelas bisnes. Jadi 1, 2, 3, jom!
Everybody just do your thing.
1, 2, 3, jom.
If you're new to my channel, my name's Brian. Born and bred in Singapore, I now call Australia home, and I create heaps of travel content. So, the tribe has officially spoken. What you want is what you'd get. Therefore, the main focus of this travel series will be on airlines and their alliances. In fact, I cover all three of them: Star Alliance, One World, and SkyTeam. These sectors will be spread out amongst 3 classes, 8 airlines, 10 flights, spread out over 10 days covering 4 countries and 1 territory. For those who still like to watch me eat, I do a bit of that in Singapore and Hong Kong. These videos will be linked in the description below in chronological order, as and when they're published. If you'd like to make a direct impact into the growth of my channel, give me a like and share this video with a friend. Even better, hit subscribe and the bell icon so you won't miss what's coming up. So here's a heartfelt thanks from down under. In this series of videos, you'll see me dragging about an extremely sleek-looking roller bag from Level 8. They've very kindly accessorized my travel arsenal because their lightweight and durable construction fits into my punishing flying itinerary. The 8 universal spinner wheels very silently glide their way about airports without any squeals, and the spacious packing interior means I can squeeze the maximum into it because I'm not one to travel with check-in bags. With a 2-year warranty, these products are tested to ensure they meet stringent standards. If you'd like to get your hands on one, just follow the links in the description below to get your very own stylish Level 8 luggage today. And with that, let's get back to the video pronto. Singapore and Malaysia are like 2 squabbling lovers who can never get along, and yet each side acknowledges they cannot live without each other. When the Malaysian Federation was formed on the 16th of September 1963, Singapore was part of it. The squabbles continued, and the Federation then chose to expel Singapore in 1965, leading to the world's only reluctant national independence. Therefore, this historical link between the 2 nations' capital cities continue to thrive today, with heaving trade, financial traffic, families visiting each other, and holiday makers, resulting in this being one of the world's busiest international flight sectors. Indeed, in 2024, Singapore to Kuala Lumpur ranked 4th in the world offering 5.4 million seats, operated by 7 airlines, with an average of 38 flights a day. This route is also a fifth freedom heaven, with Ethiopian Airlines doing this flight with a 787 en route to Addis 3 times a week. Other carriers like Korean Air, Japan Airlines, Oman Air, and even Qantas at some point in history have also dipped their toes into this sector. Malaysia Airlines took flight in 1947 as Malayan Airways on its inaugural flight between Singapore and Kuala Lumpur. These two cities were then under colonial rule as part of the British Empire in Southeast Asia. With assistance from BOAC and Qantas Empire Airways, the airline flourished and its name was changed to Malaysian Airways in 1963 following the formation of the Malaysian Federation. Ideological tensions between Singapore and the Federation then resulted in the island's expulsion, which saw the formation of Malaysia Singapore Airlines, or MSA, in 1966. MSA's intercontinental expansion was pretty incredible during its short life, which saw their network reach as far south as Australia and covering key airports in Europe as well. The ideological differences which drove the both countries apart soon began to creep its way into the binational airline, leading it to be split up in 1972, giving birth to Singapore Airlines and Malaysian Airlines system, the latter a predecessor to the Malaysia Airlines we know today. Malaysia Airlines, together with Singapore Airlines, operate an average of 10 flights a day between Changi Airport and KLIA. Prior to the arrival of low-cost carriers, these two airlines operated this sector on a shuttle basis, meaning they shared revenue, and sticking to an agreed pricing structure, passengers would walk up to the airport like they would at a bus station, board a ticket, and just boarded the next available flight, which was always within the next 30 minutes to an hour. This shuttle arrangement ceased sometime in the early 2000s. From the get-go, at least in the initial phases of Malaysian Airlines system, or MAS as it was known going forwards, the international network development pretty much mirrored that of Singapore Airlines. Where there is one, there would be the other. Some of these historical scheduling is still evident today, especially at Australian airports, where their flights would arrive one after the other. MH from Kuala Lumpur and SQ from Singapore. The excellent service reputation of MSA meant MAS, just like Singapore Airlines, already had a head start in the industry, and it immediately won the hearts of passengers flying them on international services from Kuala Lumpur, since the initials MAS also spelled the word gold in Bahasa Melayu, the national language of Malaysia. The legendary in-flight service of MAS was branded as Golden Service from the 70s throughout the 80s. In the good old days, Malaysia Airlines operated their own lounges around the world, including right here at Changi Airport. Today, they are a comparatively smaller airline trying to cut their losses, so we get sent to a contract lounge operated by SATS, which ironically used to be a wholly owned subsidiary of Singapore Airlines. It doesn't matter which lounge you're headed to, because the catering by SATS, and they do cater for several different airline lounges here at Changi Airport, is a winner in my books. The highlight definitely has to be the Singapore Laksa. I always have it with an extra dollop of pungent sambal. This laksa is made in heaven and approved by the culinary gods. And I made sure to have my fill of this delightful spicy broth, because you can almost never find this version of laksa outside of this country. I was on fire down south later in the day, but all the discomfort because of a bowl of Singapore laksa was well worth it. The rapid development of MAS largely mirrors the explosive GDP growth of Malaysia leading into the 1980s and beyond. This decade was marked by frequent destination launches and aircraft acquisitions. MAS received their first 747 in 1982, which was used to showcase their long-haul flagship Golden service to Europe. In 1987, MAS went through a major branding overhaul where it changed from Malaysian Airlines system into Malaysia Airlines. This new branding approach was meant to poise the airline for future ambitions, but instead, the branding confusion, in my opinion, began right about here. On entry into the boarding lounge, I realized that I was the last passenger. What the hell? We were meant to depart at 12:55 p.m. Was I that late? Turns out the flight was early, so they boarded everyone else in hopes of an early pushback. Suppose their hopes got dashed because of me. Taking us on this short hop up north to KLIA this afternoon was Mike X-Ray Foxtrot, a Boeing 737-800, which first flew in October 2011. It's been with Malaysia Airlines the entire time, making her 13 and a half years old at the time of writing. After the name change from MAS to Malaysia Airlines, the airline sped into the next decade, carving out niche routes which did not really make financial sense. Marketing spiels glossed over these rather strange flights, spinning them, for example, as the first Southeast Asian airline to fly there. One such flight was to Buenos Aires via Johannesburg and Cape Town. The rumor was that the Prime Minister allegedly owned a ranch in Argentina, and hence the existence of this flight. And that was how the airline was run, with heaps of political interference. The airline was branded as the only one in Southeast Asia to fly to all continents on Earth. And the airline started and stopped international flights from secondary towns in Malaysia. Langkawi to Taipei, Kota Kinabalu to Tokyo, Kuantan to Singapore, Kuching to Perth. At one point, there was even talks of Langkawi to London. I'd like to say prestige does not make money. It was messy. But through it all, the cabin service was top-notch, with flight attendants winning accolades after accolades for their remarkable in-flight service. And then, the downfall of the airline began very quickly in a blink of an eye. The 1997 Asian financial crisis began in Thailand, and the collapse of the Thai baht rippled across the region, bringing other markets down with them. Countries with a weak fiscal policy were exposed, and one can argue economies with an overriding protectionistic practice favoring nepotism and cronyism were the first ones to fall. Malaysia and the ringgit fell hard, and it has never recovered from that tumble till today. The airline, meanwhile, also went down with it. From a relatively profitable pre-crisis to a loss-making organization heading into the millennium. The losses amounted to hundreds of millions annually, continuing into the early 2000s, so the shrinkage of the network began to take shape from then on. Gone were Brussels, Darwin, Madrid, Munich, Vancouver, and yes, Buenos Aires went as well. And the airline has never returned to that shape or form because the shrinkage trend just kept on coming. On this day, this northerly flight path taken by MH628 between Changi Airport and KLIA will be undertaken by some 40 other flights as well, covering a distance of just under 300 kilometers and an official block time of 55 minutes chocks to chocks. although half this time is taken by taxi on the ground, because our airborne time is just about 25 minutes. Branding consistency is roughly tied to a slogan. After the branding overhaul in 1987, leading into this financial crisis fallout, and ushering in the mid-2000s, the slogan was changed a total of 3 times. Intense rehabilitation plans were put in place to take the airline briefly out of the red as the 2010s rolled about. A lot of the airline's profits during this time was owed to the shedding of assets. The Malaysia Airlines building in downtown Kuala Lumpur, together with other properties and non-core assets, was sold to generate cash. The airline, up till now, was incredibly bloated, with ballooning costs spiraling out of control. An analyst once pointed out that their operations to Manchester needed a load factor of 125% to break even. This dire scenario covered much of their operational environment as well in Europe, with the exception of London, which is still relatively profitable today. The airline once again fell back into the red when the new decade began in the 2010s. By now, they've begun taking delivery of the Airbus A380, an aircraft type which should never have been ordered in the first place. The airline also used this time to retire the 747s, which was at the end of their life cycle by Asian legacy airlines standards, of course. The network saw further reduction as the company suspended services to secondary destinations in Indonesia, Karachi, Johannesburg, and even Dubai was gone. We cannot talk about Malaysia Airlines in the 2010s without mentioning MH370 and MH17. As if the airline wasn't financially struggling enough, this twin tragedy proceeded to wipe out any hopes of a quick recovery. Following MH370's disappearance in March 2014, their Chinese market almost evaporated overnight as all bookings fell dramatically by over 60%. When MH17 was shot down a few months later, the airline was then brought to their knees even further because besides the Chinese market, now the entire global market has come together to avoid the airline. In a desperate move, trading of the company's stock was temporarily suspended. By the end of 2014, the airline was declared as technically bankrupt. In September 2015, enter the first ever non-Malaysian CEO to lead the airline out of this tumultuous period. Chris Muller, a person who's widely known in the industry as a turnaround specialist, is widely credited for taking Aer Lingus, the Irish carrier, from the brink of financial ruin to profitability. Until now, Malaysia Airlines has been run by Malaysians, specifically Malaysian Bumiputras. Literally means son of the land, a term which is used to describe Malays and the Malayan indigenous people of Malaysia. The issue with Malaysia Airlines isn't just political interference, but also the deep-rooted cultural issues within the organization. The line of divide was very clear between two camps. One who wanted the airline to succeed and be run by a competent person, regardless of race, and the other camp solely opposed to the presence of a Caucasian leader, believing the national airline must remain in the hands of a Bumiputra. Under Chris Muller, he set about revamping the business class product from this to this. And he also oversaw the withdrawal of the 777s and A380s from the airline. Like any other rational leaders, he saw no place for this giant aircraft within the organization's operational needs, and he replaced them with more fuel-efficient Airbus A350s. Naturally, opposition to his leadership was swift. The airline's management was used to prestige, riding on the Malaysian pride as an excuse to splurge. And splurge they did, by bringing out a 747 from retirement and painting retro colors on the fuselage. Imagine all this happening behind Chris Muller's back. And when the aircraft was revealed, plans to bring it back to the skies was quickly shot down by the man in charge. So that newly painted jet never ever got airborne for a commercial service after spending all that unnecessary tax dollars. Eventually, the cultural pushback won, and Chris Muller resigned a year later, long before the end of his 3-year contract. Enter Peter Bellew, but even he didn't stay around for long and left his post a year into his tenure. Despite this revolving door, these two CEOs did lessen the loss, and the COO under both their leadership, Captain Izam Ismail, was then promoted to be the executive director, where he still remains at the time of editing this video. Under Captain Izam, the airline continued its trajectory towards bluer skies, much smaller in size. Malaysia Airlines was now a leaner regional airline, covering Asia and Australia. Flights to Europe by then were all cancelled, except for London. South Africa and the USA was also gone from the network. Before the airline could even heave a sigh of relief, the global pandemic struck, wiping out all the hard work and gains which were achieved in the previous years. The airline once again found itself on the brink of collapse. The organization's weak foundations, severely battered by previous decades of mismanagement, once again exposed the airline. But as a consolation, Malaysia Airlines wasn't alone in this financial predicament. The pandemic grounded airlines all around the world, and with the help of the government's financial bailout, the airline managed to stay afloat. Eventually, the airline did receive positive financial cash flow by 2023, although the after effects of the pandemic is still causing choke points in the global supply chain, resulting in delays with new aircraft deliveries and spare parts for repairs. Heading into 2024, the airline was once again officially profitable, but huge challenges still remain. Malaysia as a country is caught between a rock and a hard place. To the north, you have Thailand, a thriving and colourful tourist mecca. Immediately to the south, there is the economic powerhouse of Singapore, managing global wealth and churning premium air travel with full cabins of first and business class traffic departing Changi Airport every other minute. Malaysia is neither of those. And this translates into the difficulty Malaysia Airlines has in attracting premium traffic. KLIA handled 57 million passengers in 2024, and a significant chunk of this was from the low-cost terminal at KLIA 2, compared to 62 million passengers in Suvarnabhumi Airport in Bangkok and 67 million passengers for Changi Airport in Singapore. KLIA continues to decline in global rankings because that airport hasn't really kept up with the times, despite the fact that it was purpose-built as a mega airport for the future. Customer satisfaction continues to be severely lacking at that airport. The ever-changing slogan of Malaysia Airlines continue to churn. Since 2013, it has changed a total of 5 times. The latest reiteration is your gateway to Asia and beyond. This results in the brand getting lost in the customer's consciousness because we aren't really sure what the airline stands for. Captain Izam has stated in an interview that the airline intends to remain premium, and their competitors are not low-cost airlines but other full-service airlines. The organization's latest branding effort is the most visually appealing yet, so I sincerely hope that this visual identity remains as it is, at least for the next decade. As part of the One World Alliance, Malaysia Airlines provides an excellent alternative as a partner airline for redemptions, especially for someone like me, who avoids Qantas like a piece of smelly cheese. But I'm shackled to their frequent fly program for convenience. I sincerely wish Malaysia Airlines all the best for the future, and I look forward to my next flight with them in part 2 as I head to Hong Kong. For now, let's join live Ryan in transit right here at Lampangan Terbang Antarabangsa Kuala Lumpur and bring this video to a close.
So well guys, that was my flight with Malaysia Airlines from Singapore to Kuala Lumpur. I'm gonna have a 6-hour transit here before my flight to Hong Kong, and that flight leaves later this evening. So I'll have a lot of lounge time for me to relax and chill until the next flight. So anyway, for now, I've chucked details of my Instagram on your screen right now. Hit me up there, chuck me a follow so you can come along with me on my travels in real time. And of course, more importantly, do not forget to hit subscribe and the bell notification icon, and I'll see you for the next video. Bye!